If you've ever felt alone in a room full of success, if you've ever wondered whether all the money in the world could warm a cold heart, then stay with me until the end of this story. And if stories that touch your soul mean something to you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because sometimes a single story can change the way we see our own lives. Every year on Christmas Eve, the lights of New York City glittered like spilled diamonds against the winter sky. Carols drifted through the streets, families hurried along sidewalks with wrapped gifts, and laughter echoed from warm apartment windows. But on the top floor of a glass tower overlooking the Hudson River, one office remained lit for a different reason. Daniel Widmore, CEO of Widmore Enterprises, sat alone behind a mahogany desk that had cost more than most people's cars. At 48, he was the kind of man magazines called self-made. His company had offices in London, Tokyo, and Toronto. His net worth was discussed on financial news channels. His calendar was always full. His home, a penthouse overlooking Central Park, was always empty. Christmas was the only day he allowed himself to stop pretending he didn't notice. He told his assistants he preferred working through the holidays. He told his board he enjoyed the quiet time to strategize for the coming year. The truth was much simpler and far more painful. Christmas reminded him of what he had lost. 20 years earlier, when Daniel was still clawing his way up from nothing, he had made a choice. He chose a last-minute investor meeting over attending his wife Caroline's family Christmas dinner. Just this once, he had said, this could change everything. It did change everything. The deal went through. The company exploded in growth. But that same snowy night, on her way home from that dinner alone, Caroline's car slid on black ice. Daniel arrived at the hospital too late to say goodbye. Since then, he had buried himself in numbers, acquisitions, and expansion strategies. Success became his shield. Profit margins became his language. And Christmas became the day he stayed at the office, staring out over a city that felt like it belonged to everyone except him. This particular Christmas Eve was no different. Snow fell steadily outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. The cleaning staff had long gone home. The city lights blurred behind drifting flakes. Daniel poured himself a glass of expensive scotch and opened his laptop. Quarterly reports, forecasts, distractions. Then came the knock. It was hesitant, soft, completely out of place. He frowned. Security would never allow anyone up without authorization. Irritated, he walked to the door and opened it. Standing there was a man in his early 30s, coat thin against the cold, dark hair dusted with snow. Beside him stood a little girl, maybe 7 years old, clutching something wrapped in a scarf. Her cheeks were pink from the cold, her eyes wide but determined. "Sir," the man said awkwardly, "I'm so sorry to bother you. The security guard downstairs said you were the owner. I didn't know where else to go." Daniel's instinct was to dismiss them. This was not a shelter. This was not a charity office. But something about the girl's trembling hands made him pause. "What is this about?" Daniel asked, his tone clipped. The little girl stepped forward before her father could answer. She unwrapped the scarf, revealing a broken toy robot, one arm hanging by a wire. "Daddy says you make everything," she said with complete sincerity. "Can you fix him? He's my only Christmas present." Daniel blinked. The father swallowed hard. "My name's Marcus Rivera. I work maintenance in this building. Third shift. My daughter, Sophia, saved her allowance for months to buy that toy at a second-hand shop. It broke tonight. The repair place closed early. I know this is ridiculous. I didn't want her to wake up tomorrow disappointed." There was no accusation in his voice. Only exhaustion and love. Daniel looked at the broken robot. It was cheap plastic, replaceable, insignificant. And yet the way the little girl held it, as if it were priceless, stirred something he hadn't felt in years. He stepped aside. "Come in." Marcus hesitated. "We don't want trouble." "You're not trouble," Daniel said quietly, surprising even himself. They entered the vast office. Sophia's eyes widened at the view of the city below. "Wow," she whispered. "You can see everything from up here." Daniel almost said, "Not everything." But he stopped himself. He took the robot and examined it. The wire connecting the arm to the body had snapped. He wasn't an engineer, but he'd built a company from nothing. Surely he could manage a toy. "Sit," he instructed, pointing to the leather couch. He rolled up his sleeves, something he hadn't done in years for anything other than a photo op, and fetched a small toolkit from a drawer. It was mostly decorative, but it would have to do. As he worked, Marcus and Sophia spoke softly to each other. Daniel couldn't help overhearing. "Daddy, I told you it's okay if he can't fix it." "I know, Mija, but we try, right? We always try, always try." Daniel remembered saying those same words to Caroline when they were broke and living in a studio apartment. Back when dreams were shared over cheap takeout and laughter came easily. He focused on the tiny screws, his fingers clumsier than he expected. After nearly 20 minutes, he managed to reconnect the wire and secure the casing. He pressed the button. The robot lit up and whirred to life, its mechanical voice chirping, "Merry Christmas." Sophia gasped. Then she laughed, a bright, pure sound that filled the cavernous office more completely than any corporate celebration ever had. "You fixed him," she shouted, throwing her arms around Daniel's waist before she could stop herself. Daniel froze. He hadn't been hugged in years. Slowly, awkwardly, he placed a hand on her back. Marcus stood, eyes glistening. "I don't know how to thank you." Daniel cleared his throat. It was nothing, but it wasn't nothing. As they prepared to leave, Daniel heard himself ask, "Do you have plans tomorrow?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Just the two of us. Pancakes. Maybe a walk if the snow stops." Daniel hesitated, battling pride and an unfamiliar ache. "Would you consider having breakfast at my place instead?" The offer shocked them both. "You don't have to," Marcus began. "I know," Daniel said. "I want to." The next morning, for the first time in 2 decades, Daniel did not wake up to silence. He woke to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Sophia laughing in his kitchen as she insisted on flipping one herself. His penthouse, once a museum of achievements, felt alive. Over breakfast, Daniel learned Marcus had lost his wife to illness 3 years earlier. He worked 2 jobs to keep their small apartment. He read Sophia bedtime stories every night, no matter how tired he was. "You're rich," Sophia said bluntly between bites of syrup-soaked pancake. "But you look sad sometimes." Marcus flushed. "Sophia, it's okay," Daniel interrupted softly. He looked at the little girl. "You're right." "Why?" Daniel stared out at the snow-covered park below. "Because I forgot what's important." Over the following weeks, what began as a simple Christmas kindness became a quiet transformation. Daniel arranged for Marcus to move into a better position within the company, not as a favor, but because he saw the man's integrity and work ethic. He established a scholarship fund in Caroline's name for children of employees. He began going home before midnight. But the biggest change wasn't in policy or philanthropy. It was in him. He started attending Sophia's school play. He learned how to assemble toys properly. He found himself laughing, really laughing, at silly jokes. On the next Christmas Eve, Daniel did not sit alone in his office. Instead, his penthouse glowed with warmth. Marcus strung lights along the balcony. Sophia placed a small angel on the tree. Daniel stood back, watching them, feeling something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in 20 years. Peace. Later that night, as snow began to fall again, Sophia handed him a small box. Inside was a simple ornament, a tiny silver robot. "In case something breaks again," she said with a grin. "Now you know how to fix it." Daniel knelt down to her level. "You fixed something too," he said. "What?" "Me. Sometimes, the greatest gifts don't come wrapped in gold paper. Sometimes they knock on your door holding a broken toy. Sometimes they remind you that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with." If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to open the door to kindness, to connection, to love. Because even the coldest penthouse can become a home when you let someone in.